Hey y'all. So today we are going to be creating a study guide for your mid-unit assessment. And that study guide is titled to Analyze a Claim in Either a Text Excerpt, which is a piece of something that you would read, or a video, which of course you would watch. Now we know that analyze means to separate into parts. So that means that the video or the text is broken down into separate pieces. And that is where you get the questions that you answer. And so if you have not already, please make sure that you have your own copy of this page. If you have a printer, um, you are more than welcome to print it out and to write this down if that is acceptable to your teacher. But either way, please make sure that you are taking notes as I move through this, as it will be beneficial to helping you understand what you are supposed to be doing as you answer these questions on your assessment. If at any point you need to pause the video, please make sure that you do so. So the first thing is the actual text excerpt or video. You are going to have a passage that you read, or you're going to have a video that you watch. And the first thing that I personally suggest all of my students do is to get the gist. Now, remember, the gist is, what is it about? And this helps you to jog your memory as you are answering the question so that you do not forget the overall thing that they were talking about in the video. And so the first question that you're going to have is the purpose, right? So the author's purpose is the reason that something is written. And like I tell my students, your comment boxes are optional. Um, they are where we define our vocabulary, but what I type in the actual boxes, you should type as well. Like I said, the comment boxes are optional. If you're not sure about a definition, write it down, pause the video. So one more time, author's purpose is the reason that something is written. We know that that might be to persuade, inform, entertain. However, it also might be to explain something. It also might be to present something, right? These are three biggest things, but it doesn't have to be written like that. So when the question is, what is the author's purpose for the text excerpt or a video? What they really want to know is, let me change the color of my font so that you can kind of know where I'm writing. What they want to know is, why is the author writing this part of the story? And that will help you to answer that question. Just kind of think about, well, why would the author write this part of the story? What are they trying to say? And so the second question is going to be your main claim. Now, a claim is a statement that can be proven or disproven with evidence and reasoning. And when they ask, well, what is the main claim of the text excerpt or the video? The easiest way that I think to answer this is to think about, well, what is he trying to get you to do, or what are they saying? Your claim is directly related to your gist. your central idea, all of those things are in direct connection. It's not the exact same thing because a claim is something that is arguable, quote unquote. That's why it can be proven or disproven, but it will be along the lines of what the story, the text excerpt, the video is about. Just keep that in mind. If your gist and your claim aren't really aligning, then you want to think about what your answer is from there to make sure that they do correlate. So your next question is going to be, what is one supporting point for the main claim? So we know that a supporting point is a detail that supports something, right? So your supporting point for the main claim is obviously going to be a detail that is not the color that I want it. It is going to be a detail that supports the statement made by the author in the text excerpt or the video. And so then your next question is going to be, well, if that is a detail that supports the statement made by the author, then what is one piece of relevant evidence that supports that point? So these two are going to be connected. These two boxes are going to be directly connected. Sometimes you get confused and you're like, oh, well, this is my evidence based on, no. If your supporting point is XYZ, then obviously your relevant evidence has to match. For example, in the previous lesson, we talked about Section 7. The supporting point was when consumers buy locally grown food, it supports the community and the local economy. So then the relevant evidence was the quote that said, by selling directly to consumers, Joe gets to keep more of that money. So the evidence had to do with the money. So when we talk about relevant evidence, it comes directly from the text or video and is related to the claim. And so when you get a question like this, you really want to think about, well, how, wait, what? Sorry, y'all, technical difficulties. Okay, so how do you know is a question that I like to ask my students. So if you're telling me that this is the supporting point, how do you know? Where exactly in the text or video does it state that? And that is going to be your relevant piece of evidence. So the next one is going to be, sorry, is going to be sufficient evidence. Now, sufficient evidence is a little bit different than relevant evidence, right? So relevant evidence comes directly from the video and you're just pulling information. Sufficient evidence is asking, well, does it help you to better understand the claim? Now, evidence is sufficient when it presents enough information to help the reader better understand the claim. So when the question is saying, well, is the evidence included in the text excerpt or the video sufficient? And then it says why or why not. So once again, what they're asking is, does it help you to better understand the claim? And you are going to answer in a complete sentence. The evidence in the text excerpt helps me understand the claim. The evidence included in the video is not sufficient. So you are making a complete sentence for that answer. Always make sure that you do that first. So then the second thing that you will want to do is explain what the evidence did or did not tell you about in relation to the claim. Once again, if we think about our section 7 lesson that we did, and it asked about the evidence being sufficient, right? The answer was there is not sufficient evidence in this text section for supporting point 1, as there is minimal specific evidence regarding how buying local supports the local economy. Michael Pollan would need to include more specific evidence about buying local and its impact on the economy, right? So that is okay, it is not sufficient. However, when you looked at point 2, it says the evidence presented in this section is sufficient for supporting point 2. It presents enough information that helps the reader understand the importance of eating local foods. It makes the reader consider the positive impacts that buying locally has on the environment, and it helps readers understand the claim that locally grown food is better for us in many ways. So if it is sufficient, you definitely want to state what the evidence is, and then you want to restate your claim, and that kind of helps to explain how they connect. If you still don't understand this, please make sure that you go back to where you talked about delineating an argument from the previous lesson, either the video or the text excerpt, and look at that answer to make sure that you understand where your answer would have came from, okay? So the next part is sound reasoning. So when we think about sound reasoning, it makes clear sense. So sound reasoning is clear and makes sense. Does the evidence actually connect to the claim, right? You're trying to convince me that cows should eat grass instead of corn. Do you have evidence showing the impact that corn has on cows versus the impact that grass has on cows? If you are telling me that cows should eat grass instead of corn, but then you're giving me examples about the cows' living conditions and how they stand in their manure all day, the evidence doesn't connect to the claim. Yes, it is still talking about cows, but is it talking about the claim that you're trying to make, right? The example that we learned previously when we talked about section 7 is yes, the reasoning in this text is sound